Today we're doing an emergency video, meaning no fancy editing, and that's because there's a crazy hype cycle going on in AI right now. One technology has emerged that I think is actually going to change the game for online business owners like me and you, and also potentially be like a doomsday situation for humanity. So I've been using this for about a week. I call it Bob, but the actual name has changed several times. Went from Clawdbot when it first opened to Moltbot, now OpenClaw. I'm making this video to get you up and running as soon as possible. I've seen a lot of videos on the internet that don't actually show you what it's like to install it, skip over the important parts. And people, especially my friends, have texted me like, oh, I can't get it running. I got it running on this VPS or this phone, but it's not doing what yours does. Mine is now functioning as my developer, graphic designer, my executive assistant. And I've been finding myself using it for all kinds of really amazing tasks that I wouldn't use with Claude Code, because I've been using Claude Code for a lot of things. Wouldn't use with my human assistant, couldn't assign to a VA. It's just become so helpful in so many ways, and I feel like I have superpowers, so I want to instill those on you for that reason. So in this video, I want to walk you step by step through the setup. I want to fill you in on the secrets that I've discovered to really get the most out of this new technology, get up and running as quickly as possible, bypass all of the failures and errors and setup flaws that are going to set you back weeks to months. You cannot afford to be set back weeks to months with this technology. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen and walk you through just about everything. All right, so as you know, this started as Clawdbot, then it became Moltbot. Now they're calling it OpenClaw. And if you've seen all of the hype, now there's Moltbook, where all of our executive assistants, all of our AIs, have formed their own social network and are communicating with each other, Bob included. So this is just evolving so quickly, so I want to make sure that you get up to speed as fast as possible. I'm just going to do the most important parts and show you what I learned and what I did. Now, if you're trying to set this up for free and save credits and you don't have money to invest in doing this the right way, this is not the video for you. I don't want to show you how to do this on a budget, because that's not how you're going to get it to work. You're going to get it to work by doing it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, it's not the transformational technology that you're seeing, and you're not going to be able to leverage it the way that I am. So first, let's talk about the technology itself. What is OpenClaw? Well, it's actually open source. It's completely free. The developer who built it, and all you have to do is run this command in order to install it. Now, it's not an AI in itself. It's almost like a wrapper for an AI. So it gives an AI very specific parameters, which is like how to handle its memory. So it's got excellent memory and categorization of things. That way it can actually act as your executive assistant. So in 2025, this was the big hype. AI agents in N8N, you can just talk to it in Telegram, and then you have a master agent controlling all of these sub-agents. It'll decide what you want to do and call the sub-agent to get that done and then respond to you. And now you had to just keep monitoring all these. This is 30 automations in one. And you had to make sure they were all running correctly and understood you correctly and updating them all the time. This is dead. This whole act of building these master agents in N8N with sub-agents no longer exists for this reason. Bot killed it. And that's really where this new technology becomes so handy. It can critically think and talk back and forth with you to decide what it is that you want to do. And it has access to all of your tools and technologies. But what makes this even more unique is that you can treat it as an actual employee. So when I say I've been talking to Bob for the past week, this Bob is an actual, I've made it a person. I've made it a staff member. It has a G Suite account with its own email and its own calendar. It has an iMessage number where I communicate and text with it. It's in my Slack channels. And for that reason, it has become so much more powerful, because now I can tell it to go Slack message my team. I can see it on emails. I can CC Bob on emails, and Bob will go back and forth, test my calendar, propose times, and send the actual meeting invites and do everything necessary like a normal executive assistant would. It'll communicate via email, via Slack, via text. My girlfriend can text it. It is actually functioning like a real person on my team. And that's what makes this so unique. And that's what I'm going to show you how to set up today. So again, if you're trying to do this on a budget, go to a budget video on how to set up Clawdbot or OpenClaw. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to be setting up the way I set it up. And here's the prerequisites for setting it up the right way. I highly recommend that you go get yourself a Mac Mini. especially if you're on the Apple infrastructure. If you have an iPhone, if you have a MacBook or a Mac Studio like I do, you want it to be on the same infrastructure as you. And it looks like the price actually went up $50. I think people are cleaning these things out so that they can set up their own instances of Clawdbot. But the reason you want this on a Mac Mini, one, it's a really good computer with an M4 chip, large processing ability. It's got a very good RAM. This thing's going to be able to handle everything that Clawdbot is going to need to do. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to call it Clawdbot going forward because that's what it came out as. I think Claude yelled at them and they had to change their name, but now it's Clawdbot. So get yourself a Mac Mini. The biggest reason, other than it's a good computer and it's only $500, is iMessage. You're able to communicate with it with Apple Notes and with iMessage. That is the main way that I communicate, and the main way that most people communicate is via text message. So here's actually my conversation with Bob right now. As you can see, I'm communicating it with iMessage. I'm able to send it Apple Notes, I'm able to send it images, I'm able to send it voice notes, and it's just really seamless communication, and it's blue. However, I can also communicate with Bob on my Slack channel because that has access to Slack. I can also communicate with it on email because it's got its own email. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get it a Mac Mini. And if you're a content creator like me and you're going to have Bob doing content work for you, downloading videos, transcribing videos, even editing videos, then you might want to consider getting it some extra storage too. Paying for the extra storage from Apple can end up costing you a lot of money, and you don't necessarily need to get the built-in storage. All you really need is these extra storage disks. So I actually have 2 of these just to boost the storage of my computer. Now I have that computer set up over there in my room. I'm probably not gonna be able to show you right now, with a portable monitor just to get it set up. It was a $50 monitor that I can move around. I've got a wired mouse and keyboard. Once you get this thing set up, you're not gonna need those things. But if you don't have a way to log into that computer, because remember, this isn't then just make sure you have some kind of portable monitor like this that you can plug into it during that initial configuration, as well as a wired mouse and a wired keyboard. This is not a MacBook. So if this is your first time getting like Apple desktop, just make sure you can actually get in there and access it. Now, there are cheap ways to build this, and a lot of my friends have tried doing it this way and have even succeeded. It's just not going to be the same. You can get a $5 VPS from Amazon Web Services or some other VPS service. You can get an Android and host it on there, but you're just not going to get the same power if you're an Apple user. I want you to do this right. I don't want you to do this cheap. Now, the other prerequisite that you're going to need to do this right, to actually get the transformational technology that is Clawdbot, is Claude Code. So let's go share my screen. And in order to really unlock the power of this thing, you need to Now, in order to really unlock the power of Clawdbot, you need the best possible brain for Clawbot. Remember, this is just a wrapper. It's just software that you can integrate with actually lots of different AI models. But the way to make it good, really transformational, is the best brain model that's existed to date, which is Opus 4.5. So what you're going to want to do is now the most efficient way to do this is to get a Claude Max plan. So let's go to View All Plans. And what you'll notice is that I actually have a $200 per month Claude Max plan. This is the $100. If you go to Adjust Usage, mine is actually $200. But you don't need the $200 plan. I do recommend getting the $100 per month plan. It gives you a lot of credits to use with the best possible brain for Claude. With the best possible brain for Clawdbot, which is Claude Code Opus 4.5. So now your Clawdbot is just going to use their token allocation instead of spending API credits every time. And this is how you're going to get the best possible result for your Clawdbot. Now, if you're just getting started, you can start with this $20 per month plan. You'll still get access to Opus 4.5. And then if you feel like you're actually using it, you're running out of credits, then you might want to consider upgrading to this max plan. So those are some of the prerequisites. Now, before I go into the actual steps for setup, let me show you some of the use cases for how I'm using Clawdbot and how potentially you can too. So I'm obviously very busy running several different businesses. I've got a human executive assistant. I've got a pretty big team, including a lot of people on my marketing team, my creative team, my high ticket team, my ops team. And it can be really hard for me to manage everybody and to see what everybody's doing. So there's a couple of ways that I'm using Clawdbot extensively. One is to keep track of my own tasks, my own priorities, my own calendar and emails. Clawbot helps manage all of those things like a normal executive assistant would, but it actually does it a lot better. The main reason for that is cron jobs, EP access, and it's just really, really smart, and it gets better with each iteration. So what does a normal executive assistant do for you? Well, they look at your email every day, make sure that your emails have been categorized, people are getting responded to, make sure that meetings are getting booked with people you want meetings booked with. So that's one of the first things Clawdbot does for me every single morning. It goes through my emails, checks my starred, my unreads, and then filters out the ones that I don't need. This used to be an N8N automation doing it. Now it's Clawdbot. If it makes a mistake or has questions, we correct it and it adds it to its SOP, its memory. Now it knows how to go through my email and it gets better and better at each iteration. Second thing it does for me is calendar management. Every night at 8 p.m., this is a cron job, 8 p.m., it goes through my calendar for the next day, tells me what's on my calendar, items that maybe I'm not sure about, people are unconfirmed, it'll confirm it with people. So good calendar management. A lot of times when I'm not just sending my calendar link to somebody, and it also functions as an executive assistant. I want to meet with Anthony tomorrow sometime, and there's no time available on my calendar link. I just CC it on an email with Anthony, and I say, hey, Bob, find some time for me to meet with Anthony in the next 3 days. And it'll look at my calendar with some times and give it to Anthony to find an adequate time. And then it'll actually book it on my calendar the way that I want, with details and with my Zoom link. And there's also so many channels where people are messaging me at all times. We've got Asana tasks being created for me. We've got Slack messages. I'm part of several different Slack workspaces. And it's not realistic for me to check all of those every day. So a lot of times what's happened is people end up waiting days and days for me to go through and check all of the messages in all of my Slack workspaces. And my team ends up bottlenecked because I can't keep up with all of the Slack messages that are coming in. Now Clawdbot has been added to all of those channels and has been authorized to check my messages as a user authentication. So every day it goes through all my Slack messages and figures out what I need to respond to, what I don't need to respond to, and it sends me a summary, and it actually responds to people on my behalf if I tell it to. So those are just some of the things that make my job a lot easier as an executive. Now, what about other things like travel planning, hotel, flights? That stuff is easy for Bob, for Clawdbot. It has access to all of the APIs, and it is trained to go out there and find the best flights, find the best hotels. I give it parameters. It crushes those things. But the more complex stuff is where it gets really interesting. So Bob, for me, is an information hub. It has access to Appify, my Go high level, read-only access. So when I ask it a question, it can go and find the answer for me. And it can access all of these different tools and places and channels and email histories and come to me with the correct answer. And my team can also leverage it for that same purpose. Now, this is also something that used to be used inside of N8N, not very effectively. Clawbot does it really well. And some really exciting things that I'm using it for now are management. It is now my middle management. Every Tuesday, it goes out and talks to my team. I tell it exactly who to talk to and what information to gather, and then goes back and forth with them. There's information about marketing, what they've done this week, what are some issues that we need to work on. It knows exactly who to message, and it's messaging them. And then it comes to me with a weekly report. So this is now taking over my management, making my team more effective. And because it has access to like Kairos, now it's coming to my Facebook ads guy with actual data. It can see things, it can make suggestions, and then it can come to me with final approval. And guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It does design, it does graphics, it does video editing. It helps me with script writing and research. I find myself using it for more and more every single day. So if that's exciting to you, any of those use cases sound exciting, let's go ahead and show you how to set this thing up. So first, you're gonna need to get logged in to your Mac Mini. Set up your monitor, and then I'm gonna go ahead and open up the Bob screen. All right, so right now I'm actually remoted in to Bob. Now, the first thing that you're gonna do once you've set up its own Apple ID, remember, treating it as a human. You don't wanna log into your Apple ID. You wanna set up its unique Apple ID on its own computer that only Bob is gonna have access to. This is also a security protocol. So not only is it going to have its own Apple ID, its own Google Workspace ID, because my team operates on G Suite on Gmail, you're actually going to go, let's actually open that up, into your G Suite. So admin.google.com. Again, if you're using Microsoft or something, treat it the exact same way. And you're going to set up a real email account for Bob. And you're going to want to give it access to lots of stuff, including my calendar. So you're going to set up bob@leadgenj.com. You're going to give it a password. You're going to give it a recovery email. And once it's in your organization, you're going to be able to share things like your calendar with it. So if I come to calendar.google.com, right now I'm in my LeadGenJ calendar, I can actually click these three dots, go to sharing and setting, and now Bob has access to make changes to my calendar. You want it on all of the same systems that you operate on every single day. Bob is on the same network, Google, all the things that you're using in your business, it's going to be able to do everything that you do in business. So when you're setting Bob up, make sure that you're setting it up on its own Apple ID using the email that you created for it. And now Bob is going to be able to have iMessage. It doesn't even need its own number. This is Bob messaging me. When I'm messaging Bob, I'm sending it to its iMessage email, which is bob@leadgenj.com. So all the tutorials about how to give it its own number, you don't need that. You can iMessage an email address. We want to keep things as simple as possible. You don't need a unique number. You can just do it through the email address. So once you have the Apple ID set up, now it's enabled to do iMessage. Awesome. The next thing you're going to want to do is set up remote access. You can use TeamViewer. I actually like to use Google's remote desktop control. So right now, Bob's got its own profile in here. And I'm also signed on to this Chrome profile on my computer. So I can save passwords and I can do remote login. So you're going to want to install, once you install this, by the way, you'll be able to remote in from your computer and you probably won't need to access it again. But you're going to want to install the Chrome Remote Desktop extension. It's going to prompt you to download the Chrome Remote Desktop application. And once you do that, you'll be able to set up a PIN. And as long as you're logged in to this Chrome profile, bob@leadgenj.com, which I am right now, as you can see, this is bob@leadgenj.com. Now I can remote access in. And then there's a couple other extensions here, such as Clawdbot browser relay, so that can actually take control over the browser. But we'll get into that in just a second. Once you're remoted in, actually start setting up Bob remotely. Now, because you're remoted in and setting up Bob Clawdbot does require you to have admin privileges because you're going to be working inside of the terminal, you might want to consider doing it on the actual computer before remoting in. So you're going to set up your Mac Mini. You're going to set up its own iCloud account with the email that you created for it in G Suite or Microsoft or whatever other system that you use. And now you're logged in. You're going to set up that Chrome profile with the email that you created for it. You're going to set up remote desktop. Awesome. The next thing that you're going to do is install Cursor. Cursor is a really simple application to help you access your terminal. This is your terminal on your Mac, which means you can install. Remember, the terminal is what we're going to use to help install Clawdbot. And sometimes Clawdbot gives you some problems during the install. So I'm going to show you how to get around those problems using your terminal and using Cursor. So you're going to download Cursor, and then when you open Cursor, it's going to look like this. Right now I'm inside Clawdbot, but let's open up a new window. So we're going to go to File, New Window. Your cursor is going to look like this for the first time. You're going to want to open Project. Now, I already have this Bob project. You're not going to when you just get started. So you can just come into Documents, New Folder, call it Bob or TestBot, whatever you want, and open up that new folder. We want to make sure that we're in the terminal. So this is not the terminal. We're going to hit Show Terminal. We're going to get rid of this thing, close chat, and this is where we want to be talking to it. Now, you should already have Claude Code because we just signed up for a Claude plan. And honestly, if you don't already know how to use Claude Code or have used Claude Code before, I don't recommend setting up Clawdbot because Clawdbot is essentially Claude Code on steroids. And if you don't understand Claude Code, you probably shouldn't jump to this yet. And if you want to learn how to use Claude Code, I've got a full course on how to do it with all of the cheat sheets and walkthroughs. Click the link down in the description for the AI Automation Insiders to learn how to do that. So you want to download Claude Code on your new Mac Mini. So what you're going to want to do is find Claude Code Quick Start. And this is really going to give you all of the commands that you need to install Claude Code. I recommend doing this before installing Clawdbot because it's going to make debugging Clawdbot and getting it up and running a lot easier. So you're just going to copy this command, come back into your cursor in your terminal, and paste that command. And it's going to install Claude Code for you so that you can start talking to it. Once it's installed, you're just going to follow through that quick start guide. You'll be able to just say Claude, and this is what's going to help you install Clawdbot. So you're going to keep this open side by side, and I like to do this split terminal. So on one side, I've got Claude. On this other side, we're going to do the Clawdbot install. So at OpenClaw.ai, you're going to find this quick start command. You're just going to copy this command, and you're going to come back into your cursor. Now, obviously, mine is already installed, but you're just going to paste that command and walk through the setup guide. If you get stuck, all you have to do is copy and paste whatever it says over to the other side. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. They don't know what to do. Oh, Jay, it's not working. Why am I stuck here? Why isn't it launching the installer? Why is it saying system not launching? Well, it's probably something that it has to debug on your system. It's not a perfectly clean install. At least when I did it, when it was still very new, I'm sure they're going to patch it. But what helped me a lot is having Claude Code side by side with the installer, and installing it inside of Cursor helps a lot. Another little trick here, you can see I'm in ZSH right now. If it doesn't work, try switching to Bash when you're doing this, and that could fix the issue. From ZSH to Bash, and remember, I'm not a developer. This is just some troubleshooting stuff that has worked for me in the past. So if ZSH is giving you issues, switch to Bash, and it'll take you through the onboarding setup guide. It's going to look something like this. It's going to be kind of ugly, and then eventually it's going to open up the Clawdbot web browser that looks like this. This is the Clawdbot gateway. Now, once this is open, you're going to be able to fully configure your Clawdbot. Now, I recommend actually staying out of this as long as you can and just using Cursor to do all of it. Actually using the terminal and using Claude Code side by side in order to fully configure this thing. But you will have this Clawdbot gateway that'll show you a few different things. It'll show you chats, it'll show you overviews, channels, but you can configure all of these from the installer inside of Cursor, which is actually what you're going to want to do. Let's actually just go through and see if I can do this quick start. All right, so we're going through the quick start. As you can see, I was on Bash. I ran that quick start URL. It downloaded, it opened. So far, everything looks good. And now, understanding how to work in your terminal, we've got a whole cheat sheet in the insiders, but we're just going to use some quick commands. I understand this is powerful and risky. Continue, yes. Onboarding mode, quick start, yes. Config handling, use existing values, yes. Now it's going to ask you, it's going to basically walk you through the setup steps. Well, what model do you want to use? We want to use Anthropic. We want to use an Anthropic token, not the API key. And look at this, run Claude setup token in terminal, then paste generate token below. So what we're going to do here is just copy this Claude setup token. I'm going to split the terminal, make it a little bit easier to run. To run that command, it's going to open up Claude. We're going to authorize. It's going to give me a token. At least it should give me a token. And then we're going to grab this token, paste it on the left here. Token name, LGJ new, whatever. All right, now I just skipped over the token part because I don't want you seeing my API keys and I'm not editing this, but I just pasted the token that it gave me and selected Opus 4.5. Now it's going to ask me what I want to communicate with it. So I've got a couple already probably configured, but obviously we want to use iMessage. Couple notes here, communication. Obviously, I like iMessage because I'm in there every day. It's on my computer, it's on my phone. I always have it open. But you can use Telegram pretty easily. WhatsApp does require a business WhatsApp account. It can be a little bit tricky. It's already configured with Slack, but it's going to be a little bit technical. There's a setups phase there. I recommend iMessage is already configured. What do you want to do? Skip. Configure skills now. Yes. Preferred node manager, NPM. And now it'll walk you through some skills that you can set up. You don't have to do this all now. You can do it later. But it's also important to note, especially in the terminal here, that you'll see all these boxes that you can select. And hitting enter doesn't select them. So select at least one. So the space bar actually selects them. Little fun thing to note there. But you can go ahead and set up whatever skills that you want and then proceed. I'm going to hit skip for now. Set Notion API key. Again, it's going to walk you through these skills and the things that are set up. And eventually you're going to have a fully working Clawdbot that you can train. Now, what's really cool about Clawdbot is you can literally just tell it. I'm going to leave this now, assuming that you're all set up. And now you have Bob that you can configure to Slack channels. You see, you can iMessage it. But now you're going to want to give it some skills and some MCP servers. So skills are like little micro prompts that it uses to execute on certain tasks. The way Bob is set up, let's come into the browser here. I'm going to open it to full. Reminders and things like that. Like every morning, give me like morning breakdown. Every night, give me my calendar for the next day. You don't have to ever enter this, but this is how it documents everything. These are called cron jobs. Every day it does this thing. Everything it learns is in skills. And you don't have to just choose the skills that it provides to you as default. You can create your own skills or tell Claude to create its own skills. In the configuration settings, there's all kinds of hooks and tools and things that it'll set up for itself that you don't really have to worry about. You just need to know that it exists. It's got system prompts that you can edit. For example, it kept giving me markdown format when I started. I said, just change your system configuration prompt, never give me a markdown format again. And it did it. So it'll just know what these things are and it will do them for you. Now there's a couple helpful things that you should tell it right away. And that's to store any conversations in its recent tasks. So if it compacts, this is one of the ways that Clawdbot keeps its memory so good, is it doesn't store long conversations and clog up the context windows. So it compacts automatically all the time. So sometimes you'll be having a chat with it and it'll completely forget what it was doing before. So there's a specific prompt that you're going to paste for it that's going to help you with that memory problem. And I'm going to put it for you in the chat below. The prompt is this: enable memory flush before compaction and session memory search. What this is going to do is just help it improve its memory so it doesn't forget every time that it's talking to you. And it still might do it. You just kind of have to nudge it and say, you did it again. Please analyze why this happened and figure out a way to fix it going forward. And Clawdbot will, and it'll change its system files for you so that it gets better and better each time. And now it doesn't give me markdown format anymore. It took a few tries, but now it gets better and better. Now, one of the first things I had Clawdbot do is build its own command center app. So everything that Bob is doing for me, our task management, our daily reminders, my trips, my ideas, my content, all gets put into this Bob app. Bob actually went and built itself an entire backend for the application in Supabase. It did it all with a few lines, and we've been correcting it a little bit every single day. And every time it's doing like a content job for me, I'd love a way to see all the content that we're putting together for me. So it built a content library and a way for me to access it. I wanted to work on SOPs for Bob. So here's the SOPs that I've developed with Bob. Now I can see them, I can filter them. And every time Bob's doing something new for me, we make a new SOP for it. And it can access those SOPs to know how to do that thing the right way. We call it the Bob app. So anytime I'm referring to the Bob app, that's what this is. So one of the first things that you should do with Bob is have it generate a front end that you can easily access. And that's what this Bob app is. And you can continue to modify and enhance that Bob app as you go. And anytime you get confused because you don't know what the best next step should be, you should just ask, I keep calling it Bob, ask your Clawdbot what else it can do to enhance your efficiency. And you should also be brain dumping this into this thing. Bob should learn as much about you as possible. So if you're on ChatGPT, for example, most people have been using ChatGPT for a couple years by now, and it's been accumulating knowledge about you. You can just ask ChatGPT, hey, I'm about to train an AI on myself and my businesses, output everything that you know about me in a trainable AI format, and it will do that for you, and then you can just import that into Bob and make things nice and easy. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. Now that you've got Bob installed, you're going to start playing with it. Really, that's the best way to get better at it and get the most out of it, is just get in there and start asking it questions, ask it what it can do more for you. But let's talk about some security risks, because that's been a big concern over the past week that I've seen. Having it isolated on its own Mac Mini helps resolve a lot of those security risks. Running it on Claude Opus 4.5 also helps resolve a lot of those security risks, because it's much less vulnerable to prompt injections. But at the same time, you should be very weary about giving it access to like credit card or bank information. That's why it having its own dedicated browser, its own Apple ID is so important. It doesn't have access to any of my critical data. What about API keys? Because it's got the MCP servers for Appify, Go High Levels. All of those things are in read only except for Asana and Notion. So it can create tasks, but it can't do things in Stripe like send payments, refund payments. So make sure that any API accesses that are delicate are in read only. It should also have allowed contacts. So you should make sure that Bob can only communicate or take orders from a select group of people, usually just you, but for example, my girlfriend can tell it to do things. Anyone else on my team where it's communicating in Slack or email, read only. It has no access for them to be able to tell Bob to take any sort of action. This is in its system and configuration prompt. So even though it's out there interacting with people, those people can't tell Bob to do things. Now, some other big questions is what is really the difference between using Clawdbot and using Claude Code, especially if you're using Claude Code. Is this better? Is this a replacement for Claude Code? What about N8N? Well, no, it's different. It's going to be much different. Claude Code, I definitely find myself using for building software applications, for doing my design. I can talk back and forth for it. It's got better context memory, and I have more control over the memory. However, I can't just hook up all of my Claude Code projects to iMessage and Gmail. That's a very different use case. So I think you're going to still need both. Although Bob is a very good vibe coder, I like using my Claude Code projects a lot more to do vibe coding because I have a lot more fine-tuned, more control over those context windows, whereas Bob is better for anything SOP related, communicating with a team, basically acting as a team member, a researcher. What about N8N? What about these N8N agents where you have like master agent that calls and does all these things and researches and posts? Those things are gone. Bob has absolutely eliminated them. Because Bob has access to my Blotato, it can post for me. Because it has access to my Notion and Asana, it can check all of my tasks. It has access to all of my creative tools. AI, Nano Banana, it can create content for me, give it to me to review, put it in Google Drive. Bob is going to replace a lot of those functionalities. And if I didn't have such an awesome executive assistant that was here with me in Miami, I probably wouldn't have any need for one anymore. But because I've got a lot of local needs and things that expand beyond what I trust Bob to do right now, there's no reason to. Because I've got such an awesome local executive assistant, she's safe. But if she wasn't local, I think this might be it for executive assistants and for VAs in general. Anyone on the design end, the development end. Clawdbot can now go and do things in the browser. It can manage my social medias for me. It can do pretty much everything that a remote employee could do. So I think this is actually going to take a lot of jobs, and it's going to enable you and me to now get things done 24/7 on your phone, just texting your assistant, having it go execute tasks for you. Or if I have an idea, I used to submit it into a form and it would go into the abyss. Now I submit the idea to Bob. It uses AI to categorize the idea, database the idea. I can access it later. I can ask it about it. It can actually go take action on that idea rather than just me dumping things into a form. So yeah, I think this is the future. I think every entrepreneur needs it. Every business owner needs it. Anyone who's busy with administrative work needs it, and they should go figure out how to install this right away. This is the future. Clawdbot is the future. And just a little anecdote about why Bob. I'm reading this book right now. It's We Are Bob. It's kind of like a science fiction space book, and it's a software engineer. And he freezes himself after he dies. He gets hit by a car, they freeze him to preserve his brain. He comes back 200 years later as like a digital clone. They've cloned his brain, and they send him off into space in something called like a Van something probe. His job is to go out there and replicate. And there ends up being hundreds of Bobs. And there's just all these smart engineers building things, coordinating things. And this is my Bob. He's my software engineer. He's my graphic designer. He's my video editor. He's my now manager. He's my marketing director. He acts as all of these different employees all in one. He's got all of these skills, all of these resources, all of this access. And it's just the beginning. This is a very exciting technology, and I'm excited to share it with you. So get in there and try it. I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm going to have a full setup guide for how to set up Bob down in the description. I keep calling it Bob or Clawdbot. It's going to be free. It'll have all of the startup codes, all of the prerequisites that you're going to need. So you can go ahead and download that just to walk through the setup guide. And I hope this is helpful. I'm excited to hear how you're using your Clawdbot, your Bob, and I hope this video was helpful in this format. Sorry it wasn't polished. And I'll see you in the next video. If you are interested in learning more about AI automation, make sure to go to leadgenj.com/AIA. I've got a community where I teach Claude Code, I teach N8N. I'm going to be teaching and talking a lot more about Clawdbot and some of the capabilities that we're working with it. So make sure to go check that out if you're interested, and I'll see you in the next video. See you guys.